Welcome everyone to another episode of the Shaman's Way podcast. As always, this episode comes from the teachings of our amazing friend and shaman in residence, Kriket. We hope you're enjoying these podcasts as much as we enjoy making them, and I'd like to take just a moment to ask you if you would please leave us a rating and a comment in iTunes or whichever podcast player you're listening to us from. Giving us a rating and sharing this podcast with others is the biggest way you can tell us that you like our show. Now, without further ado, on with the episode.
Well, hello, my constant listeners. Thank you for giving me your ear once again. I love you guys. You're my cheerleaders. I certainly adore my constant listeners. To the semi-constant listeners, thank you for tuning in once again and sharing your time, your place, your space, and your infinite wisdom and knowledge of self with me. And to the brand new listener, thank you for hopping aboard, saying yes, buckle in. It might be a good ride. I don't know what you're into. So new listener, check it out. How are the worlds combined in such a way that they can make sense? Ha, bet you weren't expecting that question. Well, I know that I've harped and talked and taught the medicine wheel for a good number of years. And even though I have taught a lot regarding the function, the form, the spirit, the utility, the usefulness of the medicine wheel, I still constantly learn. It is such a multifaceted, deep lessons and deep tool for understanding the multiplicity of the worlds that we come from. I think the most valuable aspect of our imagination is not to look at the medicine wheel as a 2D reality. Most of us are familiar with the medicine wheel on paper, seen in pictures, but there are very few chances that a person has to build a medicine wheel unless you create your own chances. And by creating a physical medicine wheel for yourself, it helps to engage the imagination brain, it helps to engage the spiritual brain, the intellectual brain, and the physical body. The physical body then also builds a relationship to how you build a wheel, what stones you use, what stones you don't use. The reason that I bring that up is because I have created many types of wheels over time, and I would like to spend this particular discussion of the medicine wheel specifically on the center stones. I know that I have done podcasts with respect to what the medicine wheel is in general, as well as the 4 elements, and I haven't really discussed at any great length the center. And the center for me is probably it's the anchor. It's the anchor spot. So this is what we are going to listen to today. I'm going to talk about is the center. The very first place that we must acknowledge on the medicine wheel is the void. It is that space between the stones that are the anchor spot or the center of the wheel, that which holds everything in space, so to speak. The void is that place where our imagination first began as a people. When we first started to look outward and realize that we were separate from the divine, we then created avenues or aspects to represent relationships that we build on, relationships we keep, relationships we maintain to the divine. So the medicine wheel is a encapsulation of the divine, and a medicine wheel can sit for many, many years, 5,000 years as the ones in southern Alberta, or older. And medicine wheel is that language, that teaching is in many of the writings. Some of the writings are oblique. Some of the references are very, very scarce. But the introduction or the use of a wheel as a teaching tool, you can see it in the mandalas that you look at. There are many, the Stonehenge in and of itself, there are many references to the wheel. But I find that there are times when the discussion of the void is lacking, the discussion of the center, the discussion of the 0 point. Now I'm going to go into the 8 stones of the medicine wheel, the 8 stones of the center, but I think that the void is where we need to start. When we began to look outside of ourselves and create and categorize the world around us by creating the mythology around us, so the cosmogony, so the skeletal structure, the cosmology, so the skeletal structure, and then the skin and the character of the stories can come in through cosmology, and then we boil it down into mythology. From there, we have a full fleshed out creation by the time we get to mythology. That's how I break it down. That's how I look at it. I don't know how you look at it. I don't know how other storytellers look at it, but that's how I view the relationship to the divine and how it has changed over time. So when we go back to the very, very old stories, the very, very beginning stories, that's a mixture between cosmology and cosmogony. So the cosmogony, again, is that skeletal structure, the beginning of stories. And then, so those stories are the stories where we've discussed Eros, and Eros being the no-sex being, or the triple-sex being, or the three-headed being, and was born of night and darkness. We also have stories of creation. So there are cultures that have taken you out of the void and you are born from the underworld. So there are creation myths that we emerge from the soil, fully functioned beings, or first magical beings, and then slowly over time we become these human beings. We then also have stories of descending from the sky. So the first peoples came from the sky. Our first ancestors came from the sky. So we have that. Within the Christian mythology, we emerge from the middle world. We are created out of, mud and things from the middle world. So we're created from the sources of Mother Earth. So that's the differences between what our creation stories are. How did we emerge from the void? How did we emerge and be the beings that we are today? How did our ancestors explain our beginnings? How did our ancestors describe and bring relationship between the ancestors themselves, or the old teachings and themselves, or the magic and themselves? What was that relationship? The very beginning of the medicine wheel stone, once we move from the void into that realm of creation. So the void is that chaos. So chaos then is quote unquote brought into systems and becomes something different, something created. So the very first stone in the medicine wheel is creator. Whatever word you want to use for that is entirely up to your relationship to the divine, not mine. I like the word creator. I particularly like the word universe, but that also includes the void. So I'm kind of shooting myself in the mythological foot right now. So I'll go with the word creator. In the medicine wheel that I use, it is suggested in that Sun Bear's medicine wheel that the stone for creator is quartz. Now, I have a small box of all of the first 8 stones that I put together that are laid down in pretty much every ceremony that I do, every ritual that I do. I don't always set it up when I teach anyway. I'm digressing. That's not the point of the story. So quartz and that creator stone, where do we come from? So what would be a really funky journey for you would be to journey to the creator, and not to necessarily, sup with the creator or break bread with the creator. But what I would encourage you to do is I would encourage you to turn around and to allow the creator to enfold you, and then see yourself as the Creator sees you. I promise you, it is not at all how you perceive yourself. It is a very healing journey, and it also puts you in the place of the center of the wheel. You are the center of the wheel. Remember, it is that relationship of the external, the internal, the microcosm and the macrocosm. You too can have a full vision of what that macrocosm, so all of these stones are going to be, but how does it feel when it is you that stands from the place of the Creator stone? How are you seen from the Creator, and how does it differ from your own relationship to self, or how you see self? How does it differ? Is it the same? I would guarantee or bet, I would place a strong bet anyway, not a guarantee, because I don't know each of the listeners, that the way that the Creator sees you is far more full, bolder, healthier than perhaps you see yourself. It is a good way to reflect upon the things that have come. So if you have that first experience of looking at yourself from the view of the Creator, I think just stick with that and drink in the beauty of that. Then from over time, if you need very strong answers, I don't use this journey very often because I like the intensity of it only for when I really need an answer. I don't go to the Creator often and look at things from the Creator's perspective very often. However, the reason that I bring this journey up is there are often times when we want to look at an origin story, and perhaps an origin story occurred in the middle world. However, we are not capable of rising above that origin story or rising above that wounding in order to see the beginning or the genesis of that wounding. So it may behoove you to journey and view it from the Creator's aspect. What is the progenitor? What is the creator of that wound or that original story, that origin story? And that helps to perhaps track a behavior, track a medicine, track a mental illness, track a curse. It is one way of doing it. It is not the only way of doing it. It is certainly one way of doing it. The center of the medicine wheel, we think about all of the spokes that journey out from the center of the wheel. We think about, if we think about a wheel on, representing the spin cycle of the universe, it becomes an interesting way to look at the relationship not only of space and distance, but relationship of time, because time on a circle, it works on a clock, and clocks are circular. If you still have one of those clocks on your wall, So anyway, I'm getting off the point. So I'm going to come back to the point of witnessing and recognizing where the Creator sees and how the Creator sees. And one of the pitfalls I would like you to avoid or keep in mind is that the side of yourself, the shadow side, which really wants to keep the sabotage rhythms and keep the other unhealthy behavior coming to the forefront, be careful that, question what that relationship is. Remember that we are trying to see past shadow. We are trying to get past our shadow to see ourselves. So recognize that shadow can play a part in journeying to Creator, because there are times when what we see about ourselves is not how shadow wants to keep us seen. Not that shadow is a sinister thing and it's a being all unto itself and it wants to devour you and be evil by any stretch of the imagination. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about are those preconceived ways of behaving and acting and motioning in order for you to get to point A to point B and have the same pitfalls or the same trips. And we've undone a lot of behavior in our life, and we picked up a lot of behavior in our life. So where does this behavior come from? So that's one of the relationships of the Creator. But I would, first of all, if it's your first time, don't worry about that shit. Just go there and enjoy the experience, because it is a really potent experience. It's pretty powerful in that regard. The second to the Creator Stone is Mother Earth. And the stone that is to be used for that, or suggested from Sunbear, is clay. And I don't necessarily use clay. I have a green ball that I use that I really quite like. If I had a sphere of chrysocolla, I would definitely use that. And just because, I have an affinity for that. So I think that clay is a representation of, the substance of soil, or the substance of earth, or the substance of creation. So I understand why clay is used for the Mother Earth. The Mother Earth, there are podcasts that I've done that are about the mother wound and then the father wound, and those come from my exploration of Mother Earth and Father Sun. So if you're interested in looking at a deeper level of healing within the Mother Earth and within Father Sun, then I would recommend that you refer to those podcasts and those teachings, because they're potent medicine for you. The relationship of where the stone of Mother Earth comes from the Creator being sexless or ambiguous in sex, or containing all sexes, whatever the Creator is in your reality. We have then that clay that comes from the Mother Earth. We have the first stone. So now we are beginning to create that energy. So we're pulling, think about it, we're pulling energy out of the Creator in order to create substance. So now we're coming from the void, we come into the aspect of creation in the Creator, so that mixing bowl, and then the first thing that we pull out is Mother Earth. And these stones, the next stone is Father Sun, and the stone that is recommended is the geode. I like the representation of Mother Earth and Father Sun. Sometimes I use a citrine for Father Sun instead of a geode, but my geode is very sand colored. It comes from Drumheller. I picked it up out when I was collecting sage, and so it has a personal relationship with me. Same as the sphere, the green sphere. I don't know what kind of stone it is, but I rescued it from a secondhand store, and I thought this would be just perfect for the medicine wheel. It would be a great representation. I like to think of the earth as constantly renewing and has green cycles, and we think of Mother Earth mostly in her fertility state. We don't always think of Mother Earth in all of her seasons. Indeed, there are places on this beautiful planet, and some of my constant listeners who don't necessarily experience 4 drastic seasons, but have a rainy season and a dry season. So we have to also recognize that there are and can be variations in the wheel, simply because it is a geode for me and clay on this wheel. If that doesn't correspond with the relationship of Mother Earth and Father Sun in your world, then I would really recommend that you use your intuition and create this. Medicine wheels are a personal relationship. As much as they're a teaching tool, they are also very structured. I like to use the structure that is given to me through the medicine wheel that I use. I like to use that structure, not because I can't think outside of the circle myself, but because I like to bring in the energy that I have worked and created with when I first started. Because when I first started using medicine wheels, I had no idea how to build one. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know a lot of things. So I went with the structure that was given to me. And the structure that was given to me then became a familiar friend. And I could familiarize and say, oh, this is this, this is this, this is this, because I built up a relationship over time. So for the geode and citrine, I really prefer citrine because it has more meaning and more substance than a geode does. For the grandmother moon is the 4th stone, and grandmother moon is moonstone. Shocking, right? I also have a silver heart, a beautiful silver heart that I also use in relationship to Grandmother Moon, because I often think of the moon as being silver and having that relationship to silver and not necessarily to gold, to Father Sun. So even on my physical body, I prefer to wear the moon, although I didn't know that all those years ago when I really didn't like gold and really just wanted everything silver. I didn't realize that that's what my natural draw would be, is more to the moon than to the sun. And I like the moonstone. I like the different facets of the moonstone. I like the clarity and the opaqueness. I like the iridescence of it. I like that it has so many changing facets and facts to it, much like the moon. The moon teaches us that the world went around in cycles, and that something that would appear full would eventually diminish into nothing. Whereas the sun is that 24-hour relationship. It is the relationship of the morning sun rising and setting in the evening. So there is a different relationship. So the moon has different facets because it is a longer term relationship. It's a longer term watch. It's a longer term on the medicine wheel. It turns slower than the sun does, or that relationship of sun going up and going down and being a 24-hour relationship. You get where I'm going. I don't need to go on and on about that. Then the next stones that come 5 through 8 are the representations of the 4 elements. Now, I'm aware, and I've made this point before, I know that there are far more than 4 elements in the earth. And I like the simplicity of the 4. So the first one is earth, and it is petrified wood, and it is the turtle clan. And the turtle, in North America, the turtle is referenced in some of the First Nations stories to be the giver of life. We're on Turtle Island. We live on Turtle Island and have relationship with the turtle as being the godmother source. And I love that analogy. I love the story of it. I even read in a book regarding the relationship of the moon to the turtle, that this particular turtle that this author was discussing had 13 aspects to the base of its shell, or 13 separate shell pieces. Anyway, I get off my subject, so I apologize for that. So petrified wood. I was lucky enough to be gifted a piece of petrified wood that came from a small stream in a park not far from my home. And the petrified wood also maintains the sap that ran through it. So there are very small crystals of sap, or a type of amber. And it is, well, not amber because it's not soft, and it has definite crystal aspects to it. And that is what I have used for earth, I think, for almost every single medicine wheel that I've done, because I have such an attachment to this stone. And I received this stone, this gift, very early on, just shortly after I started working with the medicine wheel. So it has been around with me for a very long period of time. What is the next relationship then? The next relationship from earth then is the element of water. And the element of water is represented by river rocks. And the clan is of the frog clan. I really, really appreciate frog stories from all perspectives. Different cultures have a different relationship to this lovely amphibian. There are a myriad of different types of frogs and the different color tones where they live, their diversity, their ability to represent how is the environment, what is the pollution like, by their health or their response to the ecosystem. And a healthy ecosystem has a very healthy frog population. And the river system, it is that cleansing vein, the cleansing blood, the cleansingness. So the river rock being the association of water, obviously if you live near the ocean and you have beautiful ocean-turned stones, of course you're going to use the ocean. I'm landlocked, so for me, it is the river rock. It is the river rocks that have called me. River rocks called me many, many years ago, and they are black river stones. I found them. They called to me way across a huge store, and I've used these river stones to represent the moons in my medicine wheel, because I represent, for me, my wheels are generally made of dark moons and not full moons. So that's how I have spun my own twist on the medicine wheel. We've talked about that before. I've talked about that before. So the frog is a beautiful spirit to bring into the creation of the center wheel. So we have the creator, we have Mother Earth, Father Sun, Grandmother Moon, Earth, and now we have water. So now we have that beautiful energy of water. Water is that unconscious self. Water is the motion through. Nothing can withstand water, and the patience of water is astounding. The patience of water to wind down and to eat its way through stone and create its own path. Its water may seem insubstantial, but is absolutely substantial. If you are a tsunami survivor, or if you're a survivor of the hurricanes, if you're a survivor of all of that water can throw at you, that potent medicine and the potent poison too, that can be water. And water coming out of the cosmos, water coming out of the creator. So all of the aspects of water. What does water mean to you? Where do you put water on your medicine wheel? I put water in the west because that's the closest to me, and it's also what I learned from the structure of the medicine wheel I use. What's west to you, though, could be totally different than what's west to me. But I think it's important to learn what the structure is and then implement your own intuition to it. I'm not suggesting you don't use your own intuition, but I think it's really important to learn from my perspective, and my perspective alone. It's important to learn structure because that's how my body works. I like spontaneity and the ability to pull up and become different in spiritual space. I can dig it, done it many times, certainly love it. The next part is the seventh stone, and this is fire. It's the Thunderbird clan, and it is lava stone. I have been gifted with lava stone from Iceland, which I very, very much love. I do like the feel of lava stone. I like the weight of it. I like the density of it. I really like the density of it. I like the sharpness of it. I like the occlusions in it. I like the different textures. It's much like fire. It represents for me the potential of fire, the potential of fire to be the great destroyer, the potential of fire to be the warmer, the potential of fire to be a good cook fire when you're out camping. There's so much potential in fire. There's so much potential in lava. In lava then comes some of the most fertile soils and some of the most beautiful islands. There are so many beautiful aspects of lava and the creation energy and the never-ending creation energy that lava represents, that fire represents. I really like that beauty of it to come from, a beautiful colored green to a geode or to citrine to a multifaceted color of moonstone to the beautiful piece of petrified wood to the gleaming black stone of the river rock to the sharp edges and the blackness of the lava stone, which then comes into the beautiful color of azurite, which is the relationship of air, or is the stone for air, and the clan of the butterfly. And this being that aspect or the 8 stones of the medicine wheel, and I like the relationship of one to the other. I like how they fit from one to the other and how do they work around it. And I put the center, the creator stone in the center, and then I make a circle out of the other 7 stones to encircle the creator, because the creator is the center, and then the 7 are the spokes of the medicine wheel. They are the spokes that everything comes out of, and it is that center wheel. It's the center of self. What is your relationship to Mother Earth? What is your relationship to Father Sun? How do you relate to Grandmother Moon? Do you find joy in the moon? Do you even observe the moon? Does the moon affect your world? How do you feel about the earth? How do you feel about water? How do you feel about fire? How do you feel about air? How do these elements feel about you? The same journey that you can use to see how the Creator sees you, you can also journey to the different elements. What if you journeyed to the spirit of the turtle or the frog or the thunderbird or the butterfly and were able to merge with those energies and able to bring those energies home to self? What if you could do that? And in utilizing the medicine wheel and journeying to the medicine wheel, it is a passport to understanding how you feel about each of those things. What is a skeletal structure? That's the earth in my body. What is that skeletal structure like? Do I have a good relationship to earth? Are my bones strong or my bones weak? If I come to water, water is my endocrine system. Water is my bowel system. Water is my urine system. Water is, the tears that I flow. How does that feel in my body? How is the water in my body? How is the vast majority of my body doing? Because the vast majority of our body is water. How is that fire in my body? How is that blood? Do I have thick blood? Do I have healthy blood? Do I have blood that needs help? What is my relationship to blood? How do I move into the fire of my own body, into the essence of my body? Do I relate to the phoenix more than I do the thunderbird? Can I do I know another bird being that ability to fly up, that ability to change, that ability to transform, the stories, the myths related to the thunderbird and the myths related to the phoenix? Beautiful stories. How does that story relate to you? Can you relate to that transformational process, that burning away process? And the azurite, the butterfly, we have those moments of transformation, and butterfly is often used in other medicine wheels as the center, because it is that being of transformation and change, where here it's air. So the relationship of the subtlety of the butterfly, the subtlety to change the entire environment. If you have just by their presence, if they're in the thousands, they're going to change the environment. But it's also the subtlety of a butterfly is represented, and the gentleness of air, but it doesn't really represent that aspect of the ferocity of air in the form of tornadoes or, gale force winds and so on and so forth. The winds that drive the typhoons. Like, there are so many different relationships to air. What is your relationship to your lungs? How do you take in air? Are you like many North Americans or South Americans or Central Americans or people from all over the world? Do you breathe in the top 1/3 of your lungs, or do you actually breathe from the bottom of your lungs and fill your lungs up from the bottom out? How do you relate to air? Do you have emphysema? Do you have COPD? Do you have lung cancer? Do you have a shortening of the breath? Do you have a challenge with the breath? What is your relationship to the center of self? What is your relationship to the center of the medicine wheel? The macro and the micro, the outer and the inner. That, in short, is a quick lesson, a quick meandering through the mind of Kriket and the stones of the medicine wheel and the the unrepresented void. I hope that you enjoyed the mental meandering. I hope that you learned one, possibly two things. And if you didn't learn anything, I hope you just enjoyed my enthusiasm. And I encourage you to create your own medicine wheel. I encourage you to create it in your living room, in your bedroom. I encourage you to take a walk, and you can bring your own stones with you or create and just work with the energies of medicine wheel impromptu in nature, where it is intended to be, that middle world, that relationship between the upper and the lower, in that in-between place, that quasi place for the middle world. So I thank you once again for your kind attention, and I welcome your suggestions for podcasts. Anyway, another day, another story. I let you go. Thank you.
Thank you again for joining us here on the Shaman's Way podcast. If you have any questions, would like to make a request for a future episode, or if you're looking for other shamanic resources, including free drumming tracks, please visit us at shamansway.net. Until the next episode, be well, everyone.